When you're facing the 2024 Dodgers, who have Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman at the top of their lineup, and hey, the rest of their lineup is no walk in the park either, you basically have to play a perfect game to beat these guys. And the Giants set the table several times, but they just weren't able to get that big hit, and that's not going to be enough against the Dodgers.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years, so this is my 6th season, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there. If you have not already, please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever you can do. Thank you so much. It is greatly appreciated. And coming up on today's show, we're going to discuss the Giants having a pretty rough game in LA. They just kind of got pounded. They gave up a bunch of runs and they didn't score many runs. And that's just, this Dodgers team is going to do that to a lot of teams all season long. Also want to answer, there were a couple of questions about, is it time to worry about this player, that player? And basically the answer is going to be no, especially when it comes to hitters going through a slump for 5 games. It's just definitely not time to worry about that. But at the end of the day, what we saw here in this game on Monday night was, there were some good things. Michael Conforto continued to swing a hot bat, hit a home run, another home run, I think his 3rd already. Jung-Hoo Lee had a couple more hits, crashed into the wall pretty hard in center. From my vantage point at that game, that looked like, oh my goodness, he might be hurt, but it was a great thing that he was able to stay in the game and was okay. But the Giants, they had 8 hits to the Dodgers 9, and the Giants drew 6 walks versus just 2 for the Dodgers. So 6 walks and 8 hits should typically get you more than just 3 runs. And they left a ton of guys on base. They were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, which I don't really like that phrase. I don't use it very often because you're in scoring position at the plate if you hit a homer. You're in scoring position on first base if someone hits a double, depending on how fast you are. And the Giants aren't the fastest team, but still, you get my point. I don't know why we only called 2nd and 3rd scoring position, but that is neither here nor there. The fact is they left 10 runners on base, and so, at the end of the day, you gave up 8 runs, and so you only got 3, so even if you pushed across 6 or something, you still end up losing this game. But also you may make some different bullpen decisions in the 6th and 7th. But one of the bullpen decisions was to go to Tyler Rogers, the king of ground balls. It was a very ground ball situation where, it was 1st and 3rd, 1 out, Teoscar Hernandez, right-handed hitter. It made all the sense in the world to go to Tyler Rogers, but he just so happened to give up a bomb of a home run. And so, look, it's just a loss at the end of the day to a team that's probably going to win 100-plus games, and every time, Mookie Betts is just on another planet right now. And then you've got Shohei, quote-unquote, slumping behind him. He just hasn't hit for a lot of power yet. And then you've got Freddie Freeman, and then, like I said, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, James Outman, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux, who was at one point the #1 prospect in all of baseball. So it is a juggernaut of a team, but the Giants had a chance going up against James Paxton. And like I said, they gave themselves opportunities in a lot of different innings, and they just weren't able to capitalize. And so when all is said and done, if you just continue to do that, The offense hasn't really been the problem for the Giants. It's the fact that they're allowing over 7 runs a game on average to start the season. And so if you had told me that through 5 games, I think it's 7.2 runs a game that they're allowing so far. And if you had told me that, I would have guessed that they would have a record of through 5 games, like 1-4 or something like that. So 2-3 is not the worst thing in the world when you're allowing over 7 runs a game. I get it. You're just averaging. It kind of matters what's the median, but it seems like every day they're out there, and specifically the bullpen and some of the younger guys in the bullpen are just not able to have clean innings. You're just seeing runs put up on them. You're seeing 4-pitch walks by young pitchers who have historically had some command issues. So some of that's got to be nerves, but also some of it is like you got to perform at this level. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, and you're not going to get too many chances if you just keep blowing things. But I look at on the pitching side, we will get into the offensive side and how there are still a lot of positives there, even though they weren't able to like cash in on their scoring chances. For the pitching, I mean, the Giants have an ERA of 6.86. So first of all, that's very high. And that's just ERA. I know they gave up a bunch of unearned runs 2 days ago. And so they've given up a lot of runs. That's been an issue. But they're like sustainability numbers. I don't like to call them luck because it's not luck. That's not really how I look at it. It's more like, is this going to last? And there are 3 different numbers that really jump off the page in terms of no, it's not going to last. And that shouldn't surprise anyone, because do you expect, I mean, if we just look at historically, we know for a fact that the Giants team ERA is going to be no higher than 5 at worst, and they're at about 7 right now. And so, and more likely they'll be in the high 3s, something like that, as a team when all is said and done. So the run prevention is going to get a lot better, and the run scoring, it looks a little more normal. It's the pitching that doesn't look so normal. So just let me tell you about those sustainability numbers. First of all, home run to fly ball ratio is one of those things where at a certain level, basically you kind of expect league average on home run to fly ball ratio. And I'm going to quickly pull up the major league average just through a handful of games here for 2024. And the league average home run to fly ball ratio is 12.1%. So when the ball is hit in the air this year, all teams combined, 12.1% of the time, it's a homer. And for the Giants, they're at 17.4%, and that is the 5th worst number in baseball. And so that number is going to calm down, especially given that they play in a park that is tough for hitting homers, especially because they have a lot of ground ball pitchers. So they're just the home run number is going to come down. The other number that is a sustainability number, this is a big one. I talk about this every single year. It always ends up coming to fruition. I always get people who argue with me on it like at the beginning of the year, but then I don't really circle back late in the year. But this is a number for whatever reason. I mean, it ends up being about 72% of the time when you allow a base runner, do they get stranded? So meaning about 28% of the time, if you allow a base runner, they're going to score. And for the Giants right now, they are allowing 43% of the base runners they allow to score. So the left on base percentage is going to end up around 72%, and it's right now 57%. So what does that mean? It means that when the Giants are allowing base runners, they're scoring at a much higher rate than what we should expect moving forward. And again, that is the 4th. Actually, I misread that. I was looking at the Phillies. The Giants are at 54.7, even worse, 3rd worst number in baseball. And this is, again, it is kind of a luck / sustainability indicator. It's just not going to last. They're not going to be anywhere close to this. So when they allow base runners, they should not be scoring as often as they are. And when all is said and done, they won't. The rest of the league, The Giants are going to allow their base runners, of course. They're going to allow a zillion base runners over the course of a season, and they're just not going to score as often as they have through the first 5 games of the season. So coming up in just a minute, we'll talk about the last sustainability indicator and explain it and kind of look at it. And then we're going to turn to the offense. We're going to discuss Keaton Winn's 2024 debut, which was better than the numbers might indicate. And also Blake Snell. We have an official date on when he will be joining the Giants rotation, which could really help things out in a lot of ways. So we'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening week for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive in to all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all in the latest in the sports world. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Amazon Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you really should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the last sustainability number for the pitching. I know sometimes people don't want to hear this. They just want to hear me rip into the pitchers or whatever. But this is how I view the game. And you can find that content elsewhere. And when we start talking about 5-game samples, we are dealing with weirdness. And so I do kind of look at stuff like this, especially early on. And until things like normalize and we have a better sense of everything. And I think their pitching is in flux. They made some roster moves yesterday to bring in a new pitcher, and I think they're going to continue to do that. They're adding guys to the 40-man, which is giving them new options to kind of cycle through and find someone who can stabilize things. And right now they haven't found that stabilization. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every Dayers tomorrow, breaking down Game 2 of this series, Giants versus Dodgers. On the mound for the Giants, thankfully, it is back to Logan Webb, and it's TBD for the Dodgers, so not facing Glasnow, which is kind of a break for the Giants. Also, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, like I did, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where, as you know, it's your team every day. Also, I do just want a little housekeeping. Remind you that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SiriusXM app and search the word Giants. Also, postcasts. For those of you who follow this feed closely, you may have noticed by now, Eric Engel is doing Giants postcasts, immediate reaction to every game. Not only do we cover your team every day on this channel, but now we are giving you instant episodes after every single game. Check out the Locked On Giants postcast hosted by Eric Engel right here on the Locked On Giants podcast feed, as well as streaming on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel, not on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Giants postcast with Eric Engel. So, with that said, the last sustainability indicator to me for the pitchers, we talked about Their home run to fly ball ratio is one of the worst in the league. That's going to normalize. This left on base percentage is very much one of the worst in the league. That they're just going to strand a lot more base runners. Simple as that. And batting average on balls in play. This is the last one. Everybody calls it a luck stat. I don't really buy that. It's just, again, no pitching staff is going to sustain this high of a level of allowing batting average on balls in play. Giants at 336, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th worst in Major League Baseball. So in all of these categories, they're in the bottom. The league average is already normalized. That's the thing. It's like all the teams combined equal normal. By the way, the league average ERA is 4.51 right now. So runs are kind of up, that would seem, because that's high. And yeah, so anyway, I could there's some weirdness there, but anyway, league average batting average on balls in play is 297 and the Giants are at 336. And so also when the ball is put in play, not only is it going to be a home run less often when it's in the air, but when it's put in play and not a homer, they're just not going to allow as many hits. You're going to see more balls that are put in play that are outs versus hits is essentially what that means. And hence, you're not going to have a 6.86 ERA all season long when all of these things are normalized. And so that's what I wanted to say there. One example is Keaton Winn, who made his first start of the season. It's not like he's pitched a ton in his major league career. This was just his sixth start of his major league career, and he was really good. I mean, he struck out 30% of the Dodgers hitters that he faced. This is an excellent lineup, of course. He only walked 5% of hitters that he faced. I mean, I could give you the raw numbers. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, so the ERA ends up at 5.4, but I think he pitched much better than the ERA. He went 5 innings, struck out 6, 1 walk, 4 hits allowed. So, like, besides giving up 3 runs, and that's the thing, it's like we're dealing with such small samples. If it's 2 runs instead of 3 runs, the ERA is, I don't know what it is, but it's much lower, you know, and if it's 4 runs instead of 3 runs, it's much higher. And so that's what it looks like in a small sample. But I just was really, I mean, if he's your 5th starter right now, then he actually pitched really well to me. The fastball, it's really hard to see the miles per hour reading at Dodger Stadium. So I was like, and like the pitch type, but he threw his slider, which he didn't throw much of last season. And he said after the game that he threw more sliders last night than he threw all of last season in 42 1/3 innings in the majors. And his splitter was really good as advertised. And the fastball was high velo, you know, upper 90s. And you're getting a lot of ugly swings out of some really good hitters. And so the ERA for Keaton Winn is 5.40 after 1 start, but the expected ERA based on quality of contact, strikeout rate, walk rate, stuff like that is just 3.03 after this 1 start. And the fielding independent pitching 1.72, expected fielding independent pitching 2.97. So it was a strong start despite the ERA being bloated essentially by the difference between like 1 extra run. You know, if he had allowed 2 runs, we were talking about a totally different story. And so the starting pitching outside of Daulton Jefferies has actually been a real strength. And that's part of the, I don't want to say like alarm of it all, because it's not alarm for me. But if you look at what Logan Webb did, what Kyle Harrison did, what Jordan Hicks did, and what Keaton Winn did, they got 4 really good starts the first 5 through the rotation. The Daulton Jefferies start was not good at all, obviously. A lot of those runs unearned, but still 9 runs in 2 innings, I think was 9 runs, not earned runs. I think 5 earned runs. But, and then that does not include Blake Snell. And so, but it's also like shocking to say, yet they're allowing over 7 runs a game. When you say Logan Webb went 6 innings, 2 runs. Kyle Harrison followed it up with 6 innings, 2 runs. Jordan Hicks followed that up with 5 innings, no runs. And then Keaton Winn, respectable 5 innings, 3 runs against the Dodgers on the road. Not so respectable numbers for Daulton Jefferies in his Giants debut, but so it goes. But so the bullpen, it's the guys kind of coming in after the starters who have been an issue. And it's been a lot of the young guys like Eric Miller has had his struggles for sure coming in. They made some moves, by the way, like the Giants made several roster moves yesterday. Nick Avila had his contract selected. Mike Yastrzemski was reinstated from the paternity list to make room for Avila on the 40-man. They did DFA Otto Lopez, who they acquired in the offseason in a trade for cash from the Blue Jays. They also optioned Luis Matos and Daulton Jefferies back to Sacramento, neither of which is particularly surprising. But Avila, I thought he pitched pretty well. I mean, he did give up at least a run. But yeah, 2 innings, 2 runs, but 2 strikeouts and no walks. So he was throwing strikes for the most part. And I just, off of memory, I thought that he threw the ball pretty well and got some ugly swings and got some big outs when he needed them, I suppose. I mean, he did give up 3 runs, but they're just going to continue to cycle through guys. And I think hopefully they have more leads and they can go to their primary kind of relievers. We haven't seen much of Landon Roop yet, and he's been like the lone kind of standout, impressive young pitcher so far to me. Yeah. Otherwise, we're seeing a lot of struggles from some of these guys, but also we've seen Doval struggle and Tyler Rogers struggle. So anyway, it's just kind of crazy that they've given up something that's like 37 runs in these games when they've had 4 pretty good starts. If you combine Webb, and so that's 6 and 6 is 12 innings from Webb and Harrison, 5 more is 17 with Hicks, and then 5 more from Keaton Winn is 22, and they've given up a combined 2, 4, 7 runs in 22 innings. And yet, like, what, 30 runs from the rest of the pitchers? So I'm not entirely sure they've allowed 37 runs. I'm just kind of going off of memory there. But nonetheless, the pitching needs to kind of hold itself together. They've allowed 36 runs, so 29 more runs, whatever it is. Anyway, lastly, coming up in just a minute, we're going to turn our attention to the changes that will be coming to the pitching staff that's going to make everything better. First, starting with Blake Snell's official return date. And then there's another kind of dark horse lurking out there as well. We'll get into all of it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by, yes, our good friends over at FanDuel. The sports calendar right now is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use on betting on the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. What I would do, I would go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, scour all of your options, and look for the most heavy favorite of them all, and simply place that $5 bet on that heavy favorite. And then if and when you win that bet, you claim your $200 in bonus bets that then you can use on whatever you want. And so it's just a no-brainer at FanDuel.com/lockedon to make that first bet a big win. It's one of the many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, as promised, we are going to get into Blake Snell. I mean, I don't want to say the Giants need Blake Snell desperately to return, but he would like replace the Daulton Jefferies start, and so that would have been a big deal. Maybe you win 3 out of 4 if you had Snell able to go, given what you got out of Webb, Harrison, Hicks, and then Winn. I think Winn pitched respectably, and certainly not bad for like a fifth starter. And even he potentially gets bumped out of the rotation eventually. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that and how eventually, how soon would that happen. And then maybe he becomes a long option out of the bullpen, and then it gets that much stronger. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, Logan Webb on the mound. I think in this series, maybe fans don't want to hear this, but I really feel like if you just get out of here without getting swept, then you can consider that good enough, and you would come home 3-4, and I think that's respectable going to two very hostile and tough environments against some good teams. 3-4 would not be the end of the world at all. But if you get swept, that stinks, and then you got to try to get back on track coming home. But yeah, 2 more games in LA. I think really, if you can just win one of them, you'll take it. Obviously, the goal is to win 2. By the way, remember, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SiriusXM app and search the word Giants. So anyway, Blake Snell. We thought that he might be able to return in this series, but they're going to be a little bit conservative. He did throw 74 pitches against the AA team like a few days ago, and he struck out 11 in 4 innings. That's kind of a lot of pitches in 4 innings, but still, he struck out 11. Takes a lot of pitches to strike that many guys out. At least 33 if you were just striking them all out on 3 pitches. And of course, that's not usually how it goes. But they are not going to rush him, and he's going to throw one more, I think, simulated game before coming back. And his debut is set to be on Monday against the Washington Nationals. And so I think that maybe part of this is just, it could just be that's how he lines up. If he makes one more like start, essentially, that doesn't count. But to ease him in at Oracle Park against one of the weaker teams in the league, maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe that's just how it lines up, but definitely not rushing him back. And hey, the more starts he misses, the more maybe the chances that he doesn't opt out at the end of the season. So maybe I don't want this guy to opt out. Although if he has a good season, if he does opt out, it means he has a really good season. But looks like he's going to miss essentially 2 starts and hopefully make all 30 of his starts afterwards. And by the end of the year, we'll have forgotten about these 2 starts that he missed. But in the meantime, you've got Webb, you've got Harrison, and you've got Hicks. And then we'll see what they do in that spot that went to Jefferies. And then you've got Keaton Winn, and then it'll be Blake Snell. And then it'll be Logan Webb. So you'll have Snell and Webb back to back, according to my quote-unquote math. But another wild card to throw in here is that Alex Cobb is kind of on the same timeline, it seems like, as Blake Snell. And so Cobb, he threw like I forget what it was called, but he pitched in a minor league game. He's throwing like bullpens on the side in between starts that are, a full go. And so Cobb seems like he's almost ready to go. They haven't been clear about exactly when he's going to come back, but imagine when he does. I mean, not only Blake Snell takes out the Daulton Jefferies spot in the rotation, and having Cobb come back would take out the Keaton Winn spot in the rotation. So if you could get that staff together at some point soon, you're talking Snell, Webb, in whatever order you want to put them in, and then Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, in whatever order you want to put them in. Alex Cobb then is your 5th starter. I mean, whoever, you could kind of mix that group up in a lot of different ways. But Snell, Webb, Hicks, Harrison, Cobb, I mean, that is just a really, really strong rotation. And they just have to be able to back it up with the bullpen. And the offense, I think, has been fine. It's just the pitching hasn't really backed them up, and in some of these games they've kind of lacked that big hit when they've had opportunities to get it. But overall, when I look at the offense, there's not too much to complain about. They're not striking out too much. Their batting average on balls in play looks normal. Their power numbers look solid. Their walk rate is high, 10.2%. That is ninth highest in the league. Their isolated power, I think I said was good, but it's 13th, so it's around average. Their batting average is 260, which is 13th. On base percentage is 12th, and this is out of all 30 teams, by the way. Slugging percentage is 12th. So they've got a 108 weighted runs created plus, which is 14th. 100 is major league average. And so, I don't know. I think that all they were missing yesterday was a couple big hits, and they'd have a lot more runs. They just mostly need their relievers to stop allowing so many runs. But again, with some of the pitching numbers, we're seeing major unsustainability in the negative direction. And so expect better results moving forward. Hopefully it starts tonight and things get back on track with Logan Webb on the mound in Dodger Stadium, making his first start against this juggernaut lineup. Like, it seems like every time that lineup flips over, they're going to score. And like I said, the rest of the lineup is capable of doing a ton of damage as well. But yeah, somebody asked if I was like worried about Jorge Soler, and my response to that, by the way, Soler has struggled. It's been 5 games. Every single hitter in this lineup is going to have 5-game stretches multiple times where they're going to struggle just like Jorge Soler is. And so I said it's about 10 times too few games to have like alarm bells or whatever the question was. It's just hitters go through little slumps. And so at any given moment, it could be tonight. Am I calling my shot? Maybe I am. You could see Jorge Soler hit a 450-foot 3-run homer. And so no, I'm not worried about Jorge Soler one bit at this point. It's just he started slowly, but that's baseball, and we've played 5 games. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers tomorrow, hopefully breaking down a win with Logan Webb on the mound. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Remember, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the Sirius or SXM app and search the word Giants. And also remember, we've got postcasts with Eric Engel that are going to show up on the Locked On Giants podcast feed after every game. So if you want that instant reaction after the game, because these shows for me come out the next day, typically, Eric Engel's doing them right after the game, and they're live on the Locked On Bay Area Sports YouTube channel, and then they show up right afterwards on this feed. So be on the lookout for that. It's postcast. It is after pretty much every game. He's probably not going to do all 162, but he's going to do darn near, close to it, and a lot of games. And so be on the lookout for that tonight and every night. So anyway, once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow, hopefully talking about a Giants win with Logan Webb shutting down this insanely good Dodgers offense. We shall see. Maybe Jorge Soler does hit that 450-foot 3-run homer. That's my call. So anyway, can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.